Welcome to the Carrie is So Very podcast, the show about everything.
Welcome to my podcast. Today I am so very peaceful. Well, not really peaceful in a Zen kind of way. I'm peaceful in talking about peace education. My friend Lynn Buff and I are going to talk about a wonderful organization that we have been a part of for quite a while now with our children, and it's called CISV. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I have Lynn Buff back on the show.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for coming back and being my guest again. We talked about traveling last time you were here, and today I want to talk about CISV, which is the organization we talked about in the last podcast that our kids have been involved in for a while. So I know we both know a lot about it, but I'm just going to kind of ask you some questions, and then we can kind of both explain what it is.
Great.
So CISV is Children's International Summer Villages. That's what it was when it started. That's what it stood for. Now it's just CISV because it's not just about village. Can you explain what I mean by village? What is village?
Village is the first program, the flagship program. It's 11-year-olds living together, 12 different countries, living together for a month in a location. The organization has 200 chapters in
The world?
75 countries, 80 countries. And so you'll have one country, it might be Mexico, and there'll be one Mexican delegation and 11 other delegations of 4 kids and a leader.
So when it started out, it was just, that was it. It was just villages. It started with a child psychologist after World War II who thought that, you know, what's going to happen? Her son wanted to know if there was going to be a World War III, and she decided that peace needed to start with the children, and decided age 11 was the perfect age, that they haven't formed their prejudices yet, but they were still old enough to go away for 4 weeks away from their parents.
And you can reason with an 11-year-old. They can understand. I think also at that time, late 1940s, early 1950, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of talk about peace organizations with adults and nothing about kids. And as a child psychologist, she realized that change will only come through kids.
Yeah. And it's really, I don't know, CISV to me is, I'm not a scientist at all, not a science person. But I always use the analogy of, I personally just am amazed that airplanes stay in the air. It just baffles me. But that's how CISV is to me. The fact that it is still going, it's completely volunteer run in 80 countries. It's still going after all these years. The chapter in Jacksonville, Florida, where we are, has been here for just over 40 years. There are, how many chapters are there now? 25, maybe? 26?
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
I would
Something
say,
like that.
yeah, 24, 25.
Yeah. So they're all over the U.S. It's fortunate if you're super interested in this and you have a chapter in your area. But it's kind of a little known fact too. I meet many people from Jacksonville that have never heard of it, which just it's such a great organization. It's too bad it's not more publicized. But I think, and we talked about this in the other podcast, one of the reasons I truly think is that it's hard to talk people into sending their 11-year-old to Denmark or to Brazil,
China,
or Indonesia, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I think a lot of times, especially at 11, the kids are like, well, not necessarily. I was going to say the kids are open, but that's not necessarily true. Some of them are kind of mama kids, and they're a little scared to go. But a lot of times it's the parents.
Yes. However, I would say more recently, parents are very open. I think they see that, like with our kids who are a little bit older and are already out of college, what it's done for the older kids and how mature and articulate and global these kids are. And so now I think, both of us are on the board of this organization, the adult board, or have been in the past. Parents want to send their kids at 11. They want their kids, in some cases, they want their kids to go more than the kids want to go.
But it depends on the parents. And I think that what happens in CISV is we end up recruiting all of our friends because, like you said, they see what it's done for our older kids and then they want that. But it's really hard to go out beyond that to people who don't know us.
Right. But
and recruit people to come in.
That's true for any organization.
Yeah,
because they see the passion, they see how even as adults, the organization is filled with all these amazing parents, the people I would have never met if it weren't for this organization.
True.
And
absolutely.
The structure of the organization is interesting in that there's an adult board and committees, and there is a junior board and committees. So these kids, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, learn how to run a nonprofit board and follow Robert's rules. They do everything. The organization is structured in that it's a leadership. They're learning leadership skills, and they can take it all through high school, through college. They can participate in committees in college and beyond. My daughter's 24, and she's still involved on the board as the USA Board of Directors member. She's never not been doing something with CISV all through college. It was pretty funny.
Right.
She was at a college where she was very close to an airport. She took public transit to get to the airport because they sent her out of the country to train or to vote on issues pertaining to the USA. And she didn't think twice about it. Like, okay, sweetie, where are you going this weekend?
Well, and going back to the programs, we talked about 11. That was Village. After a while, people wanted to stay involved in CISV. They didn't want it to just be an 11-year-old thing. They wanted to, they loved it. They just loved it. 4 weeks at a camp, it changed their lives, and they wanted more. So now we've got many other programs.
There's 7 programs.
Yeah, 7 programs. The one that my daughter and your daughter both started in was Step Up program at age 15. They're also 14-year-old Step Ups also, but and that is just a great program. My youngest is doing that this summer in Norway.
Well, you've also staffed.
I have
And
staffed.
did you
Step Up.
You were a leader. No, you were
No.
Interchange and.
Yeah, I did. I did staff a Step Up, and it's my favorite program at CSV. But a big leadership building program, which you just can't put a price on. You can't learn that they don't teach that in high school.
Yeah.
And they get there and they meet people from all over the world and other cultures
It's all these cooperation skills too. They learn how to plan whatever the activity is, and this is an educational organization, so everything is education based. So they'll learn how to plan, they'll learn how to facilitate, and then they learn how to debrief after the program to either make it better or see what everybody took away from the program.
Yeah, and the educational themes, there's 4 core content things that we talk about in CISV that they do at all the camps, and it's diversity, sustainable development, human rights, and conflict and resolution. So everything they do pertains to some of that, and it's all fun. They're fun activities, they're fun games, but it all kind of goes back to one of those themes. So they really start to think about the world and think about human rights in their country, or maybe human rights in their friend's country, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And come back and think about maybe making the world a little bit more sustainable than maybe they thought about or never thought about before they left.
Right. The thing about some of these programs like Step Up, and I know in some of the programs that are a little bit older, those themes, they will, each country, the delegates from each country talk about what is human rights in whatever country they're from.
Right.
And they're comparing it to, the USA kids are comparing it to America. Like, how is it different in China or in the Philippines or wherever?
Right, absolutely. That's a 3-week program. Most of the time the kids can already speak quite a bit of English at that point. And 11's a great age because it changes them, but at 14 or 15, they make really lifelong friends.
Yes.
And I could probably go on and on about the negative things about social media after having 3 kids, but social media has been a godsend to CISV kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they are able to keep in touch with their friends. I know you have a cool story about your daughter and a friend she made in Spain.
Oh, when she was in high school and she was practicing her Spanish, she would Skype with her friend from Spain to make sure she got her Spanish
Like
down.
she's next door.
Yes. And then when the school took the trip there, they met the friend who lives just outside of Madrid, and took the teacher. I talked about this in the earlier podcast about that trip, and her friend from Spain took them to locations and restaurants and stores that only a local would know about.
Yeah.
And the teacher was just beside herself with, she was so happy.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that wherever you're going, you have somebody there. But, they would Skype, and now there's FaceTime. I mean, there wasn't FaceTime back then, but it's so easy to communicate.
Yes. And keep in touch and to stay in touch and all that kind of thing. It's really nice. So another program that CISV has is youth meeting. And there's 2 youth meetings. There's 3 youth meetings, really. They've got some for 12 and 13, and that is a delegation of 6 kids. And then they also have 1-week ones, and they have 2-week ones. And then they also have older youth meetings that the kids kind of go by themselves. But it's a relatively new program.
Yes.
And I think for me, one thing I think I've realized what's good about youth meeting is that it can be for kids who don't have 3 weeks to go to Step Up.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just want to continue to stay involved between Village and Step Up, and do a program. And they can go to a youth meeting and still get, something.
Yeah, they're either 1 week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. When I explain CISV, I pretty much explain that it's a camp. For the most part, they are camps. But there is one program called Interchange, which for our chapter in Jacksonville it's a very important program. We always have big interchange programs here in Jacksonville. And so can you explain what that is, what the interchange program is?
Well, it's more of a traditional student exchange program where you're hosting somebody from another country in your home. And then when your child goes to the other country, they're staying with that family in their home. So really more people understand that program because you're hosting somebody. And it's 2 weeks in one country and 2 weeks in the other country.
Yeah, generally. And there are 6 or more kids in the delegation and a leader. So they do stuff together as a group, but they also are living in, houses individually.
Yeah, and part of I've never done an interchange, but part of the experience is that they're living in another country with another family, what their day-to-day experiences are. So they don't have programming every day intentionally because your child is going to participate in whatever that family participates in that day.
Right.
Whatever they do, so they really get a taste of what it's like to live in that particular country.
And I was a leader for an interchange to Brazil. Just really cool. We went to Rio, and you think about it, if you take a trip to Rio, you're going to hit all the
Tourist places.
Tourist spots. I got to be there for 2 weeks, like a normal, regular person that lives there. It was really
with people who
are there, yeah,
Brazilian.
and it just was a really different way to see it than and go to dinner at people's houses and not just be a tourist. And then of course it's fun having the same kids in your house or the people in your house. As a leader, I hosted the leader, but the kids. Hosted the kids, with the kid that they were partnered up with. My younger daughter did interchange to France when she was 13, I guess. So, no, I think she was 12. She was 12. So, so cool. I mean, she's got this great experience. She's been to France. Now, and really interchange, the good thing about interchange, which is different, I mean, the camps are absolutely wonderful. They're the best. But it's not a travel program. They go to camp, even if they're for 4 weeks. They only get to go out
twice,
three
times maybe?
at the most, yes. And interchange, it's kind of different. You know, my daughter got to get on a train and go to Paris and see the Louvre and, you know, that kind of thing, because she was
with a family.
with a
and they did
family
the
doing
things,
right. So it can be a little more of a travel program in that respect. And the other really good thing about Interchange versus the camps is the whole family can participate. So if you have younger kids, they get to experience that kid living in their home also. The parents get to experience that kid living in their home, you know, where we kind of get to experience the camps vicariously through our kids coming home and telling us stories, and that's it.
Yes. I will say that if you're a household where both parents are working full time, which is not unusual, I would say 95% of our chapter is like that. In the middle of that interchange, I'm sure people are saying, how am I going to do this for 2 weeks? I can't take 2 weeks off. That's not how I'm going to spend my 2-week vacation. You help each other out.
Yep.
There are ways to do that. And then in the middle of that 2 weeks, there is typically a mini camp so that your child and the person that you're hosting goes to this mini camp and spends
A couple
3
days.
or 4 days, doing that. So that's like the break.
And then you have the 2-week break when they're gone.
Yeah.
So it is a very rewarding, very, very fun experience doing Interchange. So then after being a junior counselor at 16, 17, and the next age group up is seminar camp. And that's for 17 and 18-year-olds. My daughter didn't get to do seminar because it's typically after your senior year, the summer before college. And she did a gap year program that she got to go to Germany for a year. So she had to leave early,
June,
and didn't get to go to seminar. But Rachel did get to go that
Yes.
year, and so tell me about that.
So seminar is very different, and I think it was Rachel's favorite program.
I've heard that from people who have done seminar.
Essentially, they go to a campsite. She went to Victoria, Canada, which I've heard is beautiful. I've never been. I'd love to go. And they stayed at this campsite, and the delegates do everything. They even do their own cooking. There is staff there, but the staff is just there to make sure everybody's okay, if there's any medical needs or any issues. But they plan their own activities. They do their own everything, and they're at that age where they're able to. It's typically a more intense camp, from what I've heard, in that they have serious discussions about topics that most people don't want to talk about. So they'll talk about things like
Or that are
euthanasia.
relevant, yeah.
Yes, relevant to
To the
today
world.
and to them at that age. They'll talk about abortion, euthanasia, whatever's in the news, topics of the day, and they'll have
Not the Kardashians or
No.
It's really funny because my kids don't even know what the Kardashians. I can't even imagine people from other countries know that. It's not really what CISV kids just really. I guess some do, but typically they don't. But they do have, and they have cultural discussions as to how one culture will view something versus another, and it brings in religious aspects, and they're all very respectful of each other's opinions. The thing about CISV is that they learn not to judge anybody. They learn to just listen and understand and not try to convince somebody that they're wrong and that you're right.
yeah. And it
So-
is a non-political, non-religious.
volunteer organization.
Yes.
Educational organization. It's a peace education organization.
Yes.
So it does a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then there's opportunities after that. A couple of them. There's one for 19 and up called an IPP, which is International People's Project. And those are interesting because they're different all over the place. I don't
And there's
know.
only a few a year. There's
Yeah.
only like 3 or 4, maybe 5 a year, and they're all over the world. So we actually hosted one a few years ago here in Jacksonville, and the theme that year was sustainable development.
Right.
So, and we are here in Jacksonville near the beach and the river, and
Yeah, a lot of things to do
Yeah.
about that.
yeah, and so it's for in 19 and up. So we had a lot of kids who were in their 20s from interesting places, Middle East, and then we had a couple that was here. They were from Austria. They were in their 50s.
50s or 60s, yeah.
60s.
So it's for all ages.
And then everybody
which
in
is kinda
between.
cool.
Yeah.
So anybody can do that one. I know somebody went and did one, and they worked on a garden the whole time. Somebody went to Brazil one time and did worked with kids, that kind of thing. So they're all different depending on where they're at. So that's kind of a neat program that you can do later. And then beyond that, and a lot of people get involved because they didn't find out about CISV soon enough. I know your older daughter was one of these.
Yes.
Is becoming a leader.
Yes.
And the opportunities are amazing to become a leader. My older daughter, who's been in CISV since she was 15, has been a leader twice. She's been staff, and she's been a leader twice. But she got to go to Turkey, and she got to go to New Zealand. And, the delegates pay for the leader to go. But I think the kids that, the leaders think they're going to go and take care of these kids, whether they're 4 11-year-olds or 4 14-year-olds or 4 15, whatever. That's what's in their mind. And what they don't really understand until they get there and experience it is that they're also going to meet
All the other leaders.
all the other leaders. They're going to come home with 12 best friends from 12 or 11.
Plus staff. The staff is usually
from 12 different countries.
Right.
And it's just amazing.
Yeah, my older daughter Allie is still friends with the other leaders and staff from her camp. And when Rachel was a leader, a couple of the staff, Rachel lives in New York City now, a couple of the staff came through New York and stayed with her. So
Of course.
she's
Yeah.
right. And it's, nobody thinks twice about contacting somebody from CISV to crash
Well,
wherever
they
they
become
are.
such good friends
Yeah.
in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she knows that wherever they're from around the world, she can go there and stay there.
Well, and like I said, at 11, they may make friends, but they're only 11.
Yeah.
By 14, 15, they make really good friends. But when you're a leader and you make
Yes.
friends, these are seriously lifelong friends.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Where you get on a plane and you go visit people and
Yes.
stuff like that. And then our older kids are, well, my oldest, your youngest,
My youngest,
is
yes.
20, they're 24. And literally they know people from all over the world. When she was in Germany
It's not just know people, they're friends.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
call them friends.
Right. And at 21, I always think this is an amazing story for Hallie. At 21, she went to Germany to get an internship. And she didn't hear back, so she just went. She said, I'm going to find my own internship. And she had nowhere to live. And she
Yes.
had no
Okay,
job.
listen.
21.
For your listeners, here's the real story. Carrie took her daughter to Miami, let her get on a plane. Was she actually landing in Germany or was she going
she went to Belgium.
She went to Belgium. So she got on a plane, goes to Belgium. She had nobody there that she was meeting specifically, no job, no place to live. She had a suitcase and an airplane ticket.
Now, I did have a friend from college that picked her
that
up.
lived there.
Thank God. But she ended up at an Airbnb for 11 days that she found until she found a place to live and found a job, an internship job working with refugees through a CISV weekend camp that she went to.
While she was there before.
she was there.
Yeah.
Well, no, while she was there then.
Oh, well, she was there
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Now, she obviously had friends in Germany to stay with because she had been there for a year,
Yeah.
too. But, she was confident enough to go all the way to Europe at 21
You're such an
because
enabler.
of CISV.
You were such an enabler. Drop your kid off at the airport. See you later.
Well, I think it was more her thing than mine, I must say.
No, but you know what? I probably would have done the same thing because I know there's somebody on the other end. I personally would have just liked to know where she was staying when she got there, but you did know because Terry was going to
Yeah.
pick her up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, your friend from college helped my daughter too
That's right.
when she
Went to Belgium.
Yeah, she
Yep.
had, when she was living in Belgium.
Yeah, shout out to Terry
Yeah,
Schultz.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then in college you have all these study abroad programs. My daughter did 2 of them, and
Yes, exactly.
and goes to this university and knows more CISVers than all the kids that went from her school that went there because they all kind of stuck together. Not my daughter. She hung out with all the CISVers from all over Europe who were at that university.
Yep.
So, and every weekend she had a CISV thing to do. It's just, opens their world. So even when they're going to a big name university in the United States and they all go as a pack, they have the confidence to say, you know what, I'm not going to do what all of you guys are doing this weekend. I'm going to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So
And still, my daughter's still looking for every summer to be a leader, to be staff. Where am I going to go this year?
When she gets a real job in the
Yeah,
real
I
world,
know.
she's been a student all this time.
Well, and that's why we have so many opportunities for leaders, is because they want to be. They're leaders for 1 or 2 years, and then that's what happens.
Right.
They get jobs, and then we keep recruiting new leaders.
Yes, and I will say, I'll tell all the podcast listeners that my youngest daughter got her job because of CISV.
Oh, yes. Tell, this is a great story.
CISV, but I know that seriously helped. When she spent that summer in Sweden
At 16.
She had written an article when she was in college that got published in the alumni magazine. And so when she was applying to jobs after school, when she was pretty much done with college, on her school site there was a job advertising for the Business Sweden, the Economic and Trade Council of Sweden, to do business stuff, to do international trade. And so she said, well, they're really looking for kids from this business school, and I, have a political science degree, but I'm going to link my article to it just because.
And she's obsessed with Sweden
Right,
because she went there. That's what happens.
she
That's
is
what they
obsessed.
do.
She has, she knows a lot, and she had been to Sweden several times since then. Just, if she goes somewhere, she makes a stop on the way back or on the way out. So she ended up. She tells my older daughter, who had a friend from grad school who was working at that company in a different location, and he's like, there were 800 people who responded to that one job in New York City, and everybody has a master's degree and she doesn't. So, she can't really expect anything. Lo and behold, 3 interviews later, they hire her. She's the only woman and the only American in the office. And they send her back and forth to Sweden all the time. Lucky her.
Great story.
So,
and without CISV, she
right.
wouldn't have even applied for that
And I think
job.
it's because there's lots of smart kids. Kids can learn the job. Whatever it is, they can learn how to do it. But it was a cultural fit because she understood Swedish culture. She understood, Sweden. She knew the geography of Sweden. She knew enough words to, to know the food and ask for the bathroom and how much is this, just basics. But she understood culturally who they were, and they felt comfortable enough to hire her. And it's an unbelievable job. It's a great job.
And beyond that, my daughter didn't get a job out of college. She went to get her master's at a very unknown school. But there are 2 United Nations mandated schools, one in the Netherlands and one in Costa Rica. So my daughter is now getting her master's in international peace studies. So that goes to show you how much CISV influenced her life. Mm-hmm. It's a peace education organization. I got her involved in it, 14 years old or so, and now she's getting her master's in peace, peace education. So it's kind of it's just an amazing organization.
Yes, and I think I might have said earlier that I have made friends with other people in the organization that I would have never known here in town if it wasn't for CISV.
Yeah, we have a lot of really good friends now through CISV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're interested in learning more about CISV and finding out if there's a chapter near you, there are websites for each individual chapter in the United States, but you can Google CISV chapters, USA type thing, or wherever you are. There are certain countries that are really, really big in CISV, Denmark and Norway, and they've got, for having such a small amount of people, population-wise, they've got a lot of CISV chapters, and Brazil's another big one. But there's also a USA.
Yeah, CISVUSA.org.
And there's also an international website.
CISV.org.
So there's lots of ways to find out more information. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we're all volunteers.
Yes. Depending on where you live, if you're listening to this in the United States, just go to CISVUSA.org. You can find out where the chapter is closest to you. Mm-hmm. And just, send them an email. They all have websites, or check the website. A lot of them have Facebook sites. So you can there's a lot of ways to contact them and just find out what's going on, what's happening. They typically have programming every month, a couple of times a month.
Yeah, you talked about the junior branch, which is
JD's awesome.
The kids board. Yeah. It's not just a board, it's a board planning activities every month.
Yes.
So it's not just the summer thing.
Yes, and again, they also get a lot of service hours for doing these activities and being a board member and spending their time with doing this, working in this nonprofit. And for those people who live in Florida or Georgia, if you need service hours to get the state scholarships to college, you get a lot of hours doing this.
Yep.
And it's fun, and it's something meaningful. The kids are really learning something.
And they love it. They absolutely love it.
Yes, and if you can't travel or your child can't travel for whatever reason, there's programming all the time for kids to participate all year long.
Well, and sometimes the programming is in the United States. So my son got to go to a Step Up, an international camp, but he went to Tennessee because that's just where it was, so it didn't cost us so much to have to fly him to Europe because the camp was in Tennessee. They were the only Americans there. It was still an international camp. So there are opportunities within the United States also.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thanks for...
We could talk about this all day.
Yes, I know. We can talk about this for hours and hours and hours. CISV is kind of a thing that's hard to...
Passion,
and it's hard to explain.
Really, it's just such an amazing organization, and it's really difficult to explain. It took me 2 years to just get the letters in the right order.
I know, there's a lot of acronyms.
But again, to explain how it works with the countries and the adult board and the junior board and the national and
all the different programs and what they all are and how they're different.
Yes. But worth the effort, and definitely worth exploring if your child is interested in other cultures or other countries.
I truly think it's changed all three of my kids' lives and the way they think and the way they view the world and everything.
I believe it.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for joining me
Carrie.
and helping me explain CISV, Lynn.
Love to, Carrie. Anytime.
If you'd like to get some more information about CISV and find out if there's a chapter in your city, you can go to CISVUSA.org. There is also an international site explaining more at CISV.org. Or if you are in Jacksonville, our CISV website is jacksonville.cisvusa.org. And there's a wealth of information on the websites. The Jacksonville chapter also has many videos on YouTube explaining a lot of these programs that are available, and that is at CISV Jacks.